Ah, the dirty old blog.
How's it going? Uh, so this is the seventh blog, and there was this situation that's been being talked about. Actually, I saw this on one of the social media things where someone had posted a meme. Well, basically, what happened was there were illegal aliens coming up from the south, came across the border, and they were arrested and separated from their children. And this has been a common practice. So it becomes a bipartisan situation right away. And the person who had posted this said that it reminded him of Anne Frank, basically about the Nazis. And there was a woman who responded, "Oh, please don't bring up Hitler for this." And as a matter of fact, she said the parents knew that when they were going on this journey, they were risking their children's lives to sneak into the country. So it's the parents' responsibility. It's insane. Uh, Now, the reason why I think I'm doing these blogs is that the bipartisan divide is so controlled, and people are just out of their minds. And that's insane. Saying, well, it's but for the woman who said, well, it's the parents' fault. They knew they were crossing the border into this country and that they were risking the children's lives. Yes, this is true. But through it would take, you know, from natural, uh, there was risks, yes, of that journey. So that does not justify the United States of America assuming the authority that they have the right to separate a family. I mean, think about that. Because someone came into our country, you think you have the right to separate their family? Uh, there's a whole series of factors that are not being addressed. And I'll just have to say, an illegal alien is an illegal alien. That's just it. If you're in this country illegally, you're in the country illegally. That's a set rule, understood. But that does not give any right to separate someone from their family. And I have to say, I knew many, many Irish, Scottish that were illegal, that lived here for years. Uh, and now that, I mean, it would be absurd to think that they'd be separated from their families. I mean, it's an absurdity. And what it comes down to is it's an economic thing. See, the people who agree with this are the people who are completely dependent on the government. And they do work. They work for the government, or they have a pension from the government. Or maybe they're retired and that their money is being beaten the hell out of it through taxes. And so they are being told that it's these illegals coming in and giving them, because they're getting Medicaid and they're getting all these entitlements, right, that is being taken out of this worker whose whole life is in the system. And you know what? There is truth to that. But that still does not give the right to separate a family. And also, there are many other factors in why that person who is maybe a civil servant, a government worker, who has a fixed income that is held by the government or the state, in which they get paid every month, and they have a pension plan, which is all controlled by the state, and it's a fixed income. What happens is that, yeah, of course they have no control over that, and they're getting the shit kicked out of them. But it's a divisive tool. And they use, and what it is really is, this is subjugation of nature. This is people assuming an authority that is unhumane. How in the world, in a constitutional republic, whether people are sneaking into a country or not, do we assume the authority to separate families from children from their families? If you can't deal with the situation, then don't arrest them. But it's not about that. There are people who are seeking a new type of authoritarian control in this country. And the fact that there are police officers and border agents that do this is another part of it, because the people who are making these decisions are now controlling the people who have a job, whose whole life is dependent on their jobs. Say you're a border agent, you're dependent on your weekly income, and say you're investing in your pension. You can't say, no, I don't want to do this. You can't say, no, this is immoral, I do not want to separate these families from it. They'll say, all right, you're suspended or you're fired. That's not a free country. This is immoral. What is happening is immoral, and people in power are pulling these levers. It's inhumane. I mean, and people are so far gone in the economics of it, is that they can't see what is moral and immoral anymore. The Mexicans. This. No, it's a conditioning that is rooted in economics, and it's about class distinction. It's about class. It's basically caste system. It's British. It's British fucking British class system. Or you want to call it the Brahmin system, or whatever. I mean, it's crazy. You know, that's one of the problems, is that you go to the economy, that they have convinced. Well, you have, say, Wall Street. Wall Street is the epicenter, right? Of now, probably an international, one of the main players in an international global economy. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the people. They're an international economic group that they are creating a new power structure that encompasses the earth. And that's why, you see people, it used to be people took an oath to protect the Constitution and the people of the United States of America. It was separate, because the Constitution declares the immutable rights that are granted to us by the Creator, whatever that is to you. They are immutable. They cannot be changed. Someone cannot come into office and write a law or write legislation that changes common natural law, natural rights. But this is what's happening, because they've convinced, like, say, And people who are indoctrinated, like it's no more. People don't say, well, they understand that they have taken an oath to protect the Constitution. Well, look, the Patriot Act is an attack on the Constitution, and the whole country, and they're all people who took an oath to protect the Constitution and the people. You do not sacrifice the Constitution to protect the physical safety of the people. And now they say, oh, and then you see bumper stickers, well, to protect God, the flag, and a nation. No, the flag is just a symbol. The flag is a symbol of the country. It does not, it's all it is a symbol. You're not protecting the flag. The flag was supposed to be an extension of the country, which was the Constitution. But what happens is when people are given, are kept on, hear the drumming, the flag, the flag, the flag, the flag, the flag, and they don't understand it's connected to the Constitution, then the people who are manipulating the situation can remove the root, can cut the original, the root of what is the action being taken to protect the flag is actually should be the action to protect the Constitution. But when you keep on saying it's the flag rather than the Constitution, then people say, oh, I'm protecting the flag, I'm protecting the flag, I'm protecting the flag. They can change the Constitution to the economy. And that's what's happening. I'm protecting the flag, which now is the economy. Because they've usurped, they've did a shell game. The shell game was that the flag used to represent the Constitution. No, but now shell is the flag is what represents the economy. Because so people just know, because that's the power structure. And they say, like, we're going to strengthen the economy. There's been, and this is my opinion, but it's been a long time, we're definitely, they are changing the country from within. And it has gone to such a severe state that, and I believe that this is what all this, the police state and all this surveillance, isn't for outside terrorists. It's when people wake up to see what international globalists have robbed their country from them, and that made them their servants. I mean, I remember I heard Obama talking about it. Yes, we're going to have this, and we're going to have a servant class. That's not what this is supposed to be. Money is supposed to be an exchange, for an exchange of services, exchange of goods, not a leveraging mechanism, so that you can have people do shit for you. And that is what is at the root of people this coming over the border. People wouldn't be so up in arms if they didn't think these people were taking money out of their pocket, that it's the government taking the money. And let's talk the truth. The truth is it's the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is a private corporation. I didn't know that. Did you know that? The Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express. And that's the truth. And they've been robbing this country blind. They're international bankers. They just were very clever, and they have some kind of ceremonial and pageantry that looks like it's part of the government, but it's not. You could look. There's a video with Jim Leritz and Alan Greenspan, when he actually says, it's like he says to Jim Leritz, this is a thing on Channel 13, you can look up it online. He says, we don't answer to the government. You can see a thing with Alan Grayson speaking to Ben Bernanke. He said the same thing. He says, well, you folks decided to sign over this power to us with the Federal Reserve Act. And we did. What we did was, look at the Constitution. We are in control of, we used to be in control of printing and making money and coins. But we signed over the Federal Reserve Act, we signed that power over to a private corporation in which we pay interest on them printing money for us. And then when they make money for us, we pay interest on it like it's a loan, when we can just be printing our own fucking money. And we did. And that's one of the reasons, I mean, look into it. People ask, well, why? What happened with the Great Depression? We didn't have any money problems before we handed the monetary system over to the Federal Reserve. And the people who own the Federal Reserve are the people who own the Bank of London. And one of the people, aristocrats that were behind the Bank of London, famous bankers. He says, I don't care who is on the throne of the empire that the sun doesn't set on, the British Empire. He says, it is he who controls the money supply that rules. And he says, I am the one who controls the money supply. These are the same people who own the Federal Reserve. And so all the taxes that come out of your money every year, it doesn't go to giving money to the little brown people. It goes to paying the other foreigners that you should really be worrying about, the international bankers, interest on the money they're printing. Because every year, they're going to borrow more money because the money they're taking from you is going basically to pay interest on them just to print money. And it's not like you pay for ink and paper. No, they're charging you interest like they're fucking making it a loan. And now here's another rub that you need to think about. There used to be a gold standard where you would get notes that could be handed in for money. So there was some actual tie to it. But then during the Vietnam War, another smoke screen, they repealed the gold standard so that notes could just be made, right? So now we're just making money that has nothing back. And now look at it. Now they're just making it digital. They're trying to get rid of cash. And you know what's $21 trillion is missing from the Pentagon. If that's gold or cash, at least you could track it down where the fuck it is, right? Because that's a lot of money. But now that it's in this digital fucking world with the leaps and blops and ones and zeros, it's a fucking con. These people should not be respected, and they are creating this fucking immoral world we're living in because they're trying to destroy us from inside. They are destroying us from inside. It's immoral behavior. It's insane. I mean, how could you say, any reasonable person say, and if it's illegal, then perhaps illegal aliens shouldn't be coming into the country. But perhaps maybe you should go out to the people that are hiring them. Right? But to say that, that a politician wrote legislation somehow gives them the right for a police officer who's just a servant of the people to separate children from their family, and then for a citizen to say, well, you know what, it's the parents' responsibility, they shouldn't have put him in that situation. No, you don't have the right to do that. Period. It's immoral. It's evil. And to go back to the thing where the person talked about Anne Frank, yes, it doesn't matter, forget Hitler, forget all the words. The biggest, Hitler was one person. If all those people didn't comply to what the Nazis were doing, it would have never happened, because Hitler couldn't do it himself. And another thing is, where did all the money, where did the Nazis get all their money? Where did they get it for a world war? Where did they get all the oil? They don't have oil in Germany. Where did they get all the money? Where did they think about this stuff? They were in poverty after the sanctions, after World War I. Where did they get all this money? Look into these things. It is a different story emerges. Ties back to the Bush family. And I don't care about the political thing. But the father was... I'm not even going into it. Look into it. If you really want to know, look at it to yourself, because it's out there. Look at Operation Paperclip. We allowed thousands of Nazis into our country. And these are facts. These are actual facts. It was the head of the CIA went to the president and said, "Well, listen, we shouldn't let all these Nazis go to the Soviets. What do you think we take them in to the fold here?" He said, "Well, I don't want any of the bad guys." They say Joseph Mengele was here, but this is a fact. So they brought scientists, rocket engineers, but into our country, into the fucking government, so into the CIA. So we have this fucking secret fucking order in our society. Who knows what the fuck's going on? And you look at the immorality that's we're participating in, and the fact that people are blind to it because they're too consumed with stuffing their face with something. I'm guilty as charged. I've done it. I still do it sometimes. But I've seen it a little bit. You know, people work very hard, and it's like they don't have time to really pick their head out sometimes. And they don't really. They turn in the fucking the mainstream media is a doping device. It's the truth. And you know, you think what did the guys that were driving the trains to fucking Auschwitz, right? You think they knew what was going on? You think they were punching a clock? Were they getting a pension? You think they were getting up, kissing the wife? All right, dear, I'll see you later. Well, don't be late. Don't stop by the bar and get a drink after work. Make sure you get, okay, wifey. And you think they were going joking about it? He'll stopping by having a drink at the bar. Oh, I gotta get home for the missus. Getting the pension. And I'm not saying that those people, you have to be aware of this. Because now, look at this stuff is taking place. Now it's your responsibility. What we're doing around the world, we are becoming the bad guys. And you can say the war on terror and all, it's all nonsense. There was plans in 1999, the neocons, I think it's the New American Century, and all the areas in the Middle East that we're fighting with, we're at war was in the plans to be taken over. This is before 9/11. The New American Century, they were projection plans by the neocons, Wilfowitz, all these guys. It's in their own writing. There's a Richard Clark. There's a General Richard Clark. There's an interview with him that said during 9/11 he went in. He said to the Pentagon, this is the general at the time, Richard Clark. He goes into the Pentagon, and the guy goes, "Oh," he says, "How's it going?" He says, "We're going to war in Iraq." He says, "Iraq?" He says, "Why?" He says, "I don't know." This is the general, Richard Clark, a general. And then he said he came back the next day, or whatever the time was. This is an interview you could see with, just look, Richard Clark. I think it was, I can't remember off the hand. I'll look it up and maybe put a link in it. And he said he came back in the Pentagon, and he saw the same guy, and he says, "So what's the story?" He says, "Not only we're going into Iraq, we're going into," and he named 5 countries. And look at where we are now. Syria, all these countries are on the list. So there was a hit list before. September 10th. You can see this online as well. The Treasury Secretary, what's his name? Rumsfeld. He made an address, a press address. He says, we are facing one of the most dangerous foes of the government, the United States of America, and it's the bureaucracy of the Pentagon. We're missing, I forget the money. It was like, it's in the trillions though. Trillions of dollars. The day before 9/11, we are missing trillions of dollars. The day before, September 10th, trillions. These are facts. This is not an opinion. And you know, and I know I've seen the game from the whole. You know, I was in I know the bar business, and it's New York City. You know, Wall Street generates a lot of money and a lot of people, and the work field. It's great for the bar business, right? People need to fucking unwind, a few drinks, dull the senses. You know, there are peoples down the tier, and you know, I may participate in it again just to fucking make money. And I know people who have families and stuff. But it doesn't justify it. you have to understand. I mean, people really have to take a look at what's going on. And they just, I don't know. My hope is that people are just so occupied and, have worked so hard to get what they have. Change is just like, why should I change? That's their problem. But when the money that is going to, well, let's say these things going on in the world in the name of terror, fight the war on terrorism. Come on, please, really. It's a 17-year preemptive strike, 16-year preemptive strike. No, it's the international globalists creating an empire. They're taking it over. Afghanistan used to be a free country. I mean, literally free-range country. They wanted to implement their economic structures in these countries. They put in central banks. They put bases all around the world. It's authoritarian. That's what this whole thing with separating families, thinking you have just the fact that you think you have the right to do that shows there is a huge problem. It's inhumane, and we have no right to do such a thing at all. At all. Servants of the people don't have this power. Shouldn't have this power. I'm in New York, and they have park enforcement vehicles, the National Park Service. What? What are you enforcing? How do you have authority over other Americans? You don't have any authority over other Americans, and it's inalienable rights. You're a fucking servant. You're a park fucking ranger. But they're giving these people, I mean, it's the same thing like a police officer. The most thankless job in the world. I know many fucking New York City police officers that have to deal with bullshit with bureaucracy and deal with fucking a thankless job on the street. But that's that job. And it's changing that they're turning it into like a military type of thing. That's not what it is. And people want, this is what people, and that's the thing, I don't think people want this. People don't even understand we've been so fucking dumbed down that the idea of what the Constitutional Republic was in response to tyranny and monarchy has been washed away by Wall Street and international bankers that wanted to put America, because people think that the economy is America. That the rules of the economic system is what America is. No, that's the con. The economy was supposed to be a component so that free people could work amongst each other. And there's always going to be someone better at something. That's not what this is. That's why capitalism is not free markets. Capitalism is a leveraging mechanism of authority that goes back to fucking the Queen of England and all those free people. Freedom, and there's always going to be someone better. There's always going to be someone who has, it's always going to be corruption. We're not saying this. I'm not saying that, and I don't believe in socialism. You can have free markets based on the Constitution. They had it. Get rid of the central banks. What do we need a central bank to print our money for us? You would have all the people working hard in small business. You will have all of that and and more. Get the fucking Federal fucking Reserve and all these fucking international bankers out of our fucking life. This technology is a Trojan horse. You go into all stores now. They have everything's touched with your fingers. They can follow you everywhere you go. Why should we? Why? It's insane. And people say, well, I'm a Republican. What the fuck does that mean? Oh, I'm a Democrat. You're being played on both sides. because one of my things with the conservatives, anything you say that goes against what their agenda is, then you're on some other side of the party. It's uh, it's funny. I have this book. I'll put it on another that I picked up, and it was it's like a 1950 industry. It was a 1950 industry and management collegiate textbook, and the opening in the opening introduction, it said all. I'm not gonna. I should just read it, but I don't remember off the top of it. Basically, anything that would get in the way of corporate profits or expansion should be considered socialistic. So that's not saying that socialism, the centralizing of the workforce and all this stuff is bad. It's saying no. We are creating a term. We are defining the term socialism. They are changing the language. We are defining the term socialism as anything that interferes with the profits or growth of the corporate industry. It may be different than what you think socialism is, but this is what's happened. So anything they do, and you got to remember too, a corporation by law has to serve the shareholders. So America is not capitalism has nothing to do with the Constitution. Free markets do. And now because someone puts a badge on someone and gives them, and now you got, it's a fucking joke. Start talking about the Port Authority, MTA police now. You have at the ferry you have MSA security. Who are these people with dogs? The United States is becoming an immoral country. That's that. You can't. There is no justification. This whole war on terrorism does not justify what we're doing at all. I mean, if you really step back and look at it, it's just so clear. But they made it such a personal thing, and people it's so and if you're an adult and you're still having a personal reaction to the words related to 9/11, and you haven't been able to look at it, then there's something wrong. They're controlling you. I think it was Aristotle who said, the sign of intelligence is to be able to hold an idea or a concept in your mind without making a judgment on it, without agreeing or disagreeing with it. You're just holding it in your mind to observe it. And we should do that with everything. You see people driving around with 9/11 things for business, like towers on their trucks. What does that have to do with fucking people putting it on as a logo for their business? That's fucking sick. We have a museum that people pay to go in, a 9/11 memorial. It's 16 years ago, and people pay to go in. This is something warped and something very wrong with all this shit. So, I mean, things are just going to get worse. You're talking about people separating family members from their children. You know how cruel that is? How sick that is? That's sick. That's sick and demented. That is a sick and demented thing to do. But when you have people who have no power themselves, they feel a sense of power doing this. And the people who are doing these tasks are being ordered to do it. That's the thing here. The people who are they are doing the bidding, whoever the lawmakers, of higher ups. So people are ordering them to separate them from their families. Whatever the political discourse, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the right did it, the left did it. it's wrong. And if you can't fucking tell right from wrong, you're an immoral person. And if something comes, because people have gotten so used to justifying the immorality by making it a partisan political thing, that we're becoming immoral. Because we're bullshitting ourselves and we're bullshitting everybody else. But you know what, at the end of the day, it's all a bunch of bullshit. So, take it easy.
Ah, the dirty old blog.